I right now want to kind of shift gears because I want to talk about something, and I'm going to let you have the floor on this, something that I know is very important for you to share and
Sure.
talk about. In July of 2015,
hmm
something happened to you that really changed your life forever. Could you please share with us what that was and kind of walk us through sort of the thoughts and emotions as you were going through that?
Sure. So in July of 2015, I finally enlisted into the Air Force Reserve. I became a medic in the Air Force Reserve. Long story short, a few months later, I got diagnosed with testicular cancer. And as I stand here or sit here today for the podcast, I am a two-time testicular cancer survivor. So surgery, chemotherapy, um, continuing to serve in the Air Force Reserve. Uh, my part-time job in the Air Force Reserve ultimately placed me on temporary medical retirement because my cancer was too great. It was too much of a risk, I suppose, for the military. And for 4 years, I was in this duo limbo, uncertain area of would I return to service? Was I going to get medically retired permanently? Were they going to keep pushing me on this temporary retirement thing? And the following year, in the summer of 2017, my cancer relapsed into my lymphatic system, and I had to do radiation therapy. I got really sick. It was a really challenging time for me, mentally and physically. I was very sick. Josh and I were still trying to do shows as best we could. And a few times I had to bring a bucket on stage and tell the audience, I might puke because I'm getting radiation every day and I'm getting nauseous. Luckily, that didn't happen. I did puke backstage. Um, so, one, to all the dudes out there listening here on the Improv and Magic podcast, and to the ladies who might be listening who have a man in their life, uh, definitely once a month advocate just like you would for a breast self exam. Do the same for your nads and check those balls because it is important. Early detection saves lives. Testis cancer is the number one cancer for men 18 to 40. More men will get diagnosed with testicular cancer than women of breast cancer.
Oh,
So,
wow.
in that age bracket, yeah, pretty crazy when you think about it. And it is the number one cancer for men in the military, which obviously I was active on active orders at that time when I got sick. So yeah, something to think about.
Those of us who have never had to go through that fight with cancer will
hmm
never know this, but you're there at the doctor's office and the doctor hits you with this diagnosis. And I'm sure it must feel like a big slam in the face, but what's your reaction to that? I mean, the doctor tells you, BJ, you
Yeah.
have testicular cancer. I mean, what does that do for you in that moment?
Let me go back a few days before that, where I presented to the Troop Medical Clinic at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. I went to sick call, and there's a physician's assistant who's there at 5 a.m. To take care of all of the wounded, ill, injured, whatever um, service members who are there at sick call. And I had the day off of work, so I went over to sick call because I was like, my left nut's getting big. Little did I know that there's a tumor growing on it. So I go into the clinic, and because it's a female provider, there had to be someone like an observer, a chaperone, if you will, who sat in the corner. I always pronounce that word wrong. How do you say it? Chaperone? Chaperone.
Chaperoned.
Say it again.
Chaperoned.
Chaperone.
Yep.
Chaperone. It's the PH in there, I think, throws me off. Chaperone. So there's an old Army medic sitting in the corner who he has to be in there. He doesn't want to be in there. He has more important things to do, but he has to be there because she's going to have me drop my trousers and she's going to palpate and figure out what is going on. So I pull my pants down, my nuts hanging out, and he looks over from across the room from behind his cell phone screen where, he's sitting in a chair looking at it, and he goes, wow, that's a big ball. And he goes right back to his phone and keeps going. So that's how I knew that, like, okay, my nut really does have a problem. And then I ended up getting an ultrasound. And then a few days later, they called me into the urologist's office, and he's the chief of urology at this giant Army medical center. This is the pinnacle of Army medicine where I'm at. It's a teaching hospital. And so he goes, "Hey, this needs to come out." And I said, um, like, "Do you know if it's cancer?" And he goes, "I mean, I don't know for sure. Like, we could do a biopsy, but it could spread, so it's risky, right? Like, do we want to poke it and like possibly let it spread? Don't want to do that." And he goes, "But first, hey, there's a bunch of new lieutenants who are here who are all doing their urology, um, rotations. Do you mind if they come in?" So, and I'm a student of life, so of course, and I was in my medic program at the time, so anyway, I can learn and study. So, like 10 urologists, brand new, well, soon to be urologists, are in here. They all graduated med school. They're doing their rotations in urology, residents and whatnot. Um, they all come in and surrounding the room, and one by one, they all come over and are palpating my giant nut. And he's like, "Are you doing okay, Airman Lange?" And I said, "Sir, with all due respect, this is the most excitement I had since before basic training." So, and then at the end, he was like, "So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's cancerous. I won't be able to know for sure, but we need to take it out." And I'm thinking, okay, well, cool. I got class for the next 2 weeks. Then like we have a break. Is there any way that we? And he goes, "No, like you have to have it taken out immediately because obviously you got cancer in your body. You don't want that shit to spread." Um, and he slated me for the next day. He slated me for surgery literally the following day. My first time ever having surgery. They took my left nut out. This part was all easy for me, LD. I mean, for the most part. Like, yeah, I was a little bit nervous, but like, I had faith in the military and my doctors. I was in the best shape of my life at the time. And it was more of an obstacle than anything. Like I wasn't super scared. But the next year, when my cancer came back, that's when I was like, holy shit, like this is more serious than I thought. I kind of felt like the boogeyman came out of the closet. And that's what led to me getting even more depressed and worried and things like that. Cause it just felt like I had a bunch of things kicking me. Like my initial cancer diagnosis, they placed me on temporary medical retirement. The following year, my cancer came back. I got really sick from the treatments. I was worried about that. Air Force placed me on temporary medical retirement for another year. It wasn't until 2020 when I finally got permanently medically retired. So I was in this limbo for years. I lost my part-time job that I had at that point while I was out on disability. So like that was a struggle. And, it was a very scary time for me. And I had to look back and say, dude, you gotta keep moving forward because it's easy to just get consumed with this depression and a lot of the anxiety. It was really easy. And I gained a lot of weight and I was really not doing well. So I was trying to, like on the surface, I was like being positive on social medias and all that stuff, trying to live up to what I thought I needed to be for everybody. But inside I was scared.
One thing that you've mentioned about going through that, and Josh also mentioned this as well, is that it was during that time that comedy became your coping mechanism. How
Totally.
were you able to use comedy in order to cope with what you were going through?
Yeah. Man, I got a lot to say about that. One, let's talk about theory, right, of improv, which is to say yes and, right, to put one foot in front of the other. Hey, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? Why is this happening for me? Right. And it took a long time to be okay with saying that because it's easy to say it, but do you really believe it? Do you understand it? Can you see the positive in this unfortunate situation? Like me losing my job in the Air Force and getting sick and being placed on temporary medical retirement opened the doors a lot for me. I was able to come in as a contractor and teach improv for the Air Force Wounded Warrior program, applied improv, so not just focusing on the performance, but the psychological and well-being benefits of improv. My cancer journey taught me a lot about what's important in my life. So, trying to find that, but being able to laugh about the uncomfortable things. And I have done some stand up, not a ton. In fact, I want to work more towards it, but I was able to like write a lot of material about my cancer journey through the lens of comedy. One, to help me digest it and make fun of it, and loss of a testicle and like the body imaging issues that I had at the time and my weight gain. Um, I was able to use comedy to help deflect some of the hard feelings that I was having, but also use it as a beacon for advocacy, and talk about the importance of self exams and just awareness of testicular cancer. So that's what it meant. And as far as Josh is concerned, really, and all of my improv community, which is unbelievably important in everything that I do. I mean, I don't know how I could survive just without improv. I don't just mean the performance, but like my friendships, the theaters, the camaraderie that we have. That was even more important to me once I started to recover from my side effects, for me to get back out there, because I definitely got very depressed and kind of reclused myself a little bit. Josh and I still had some shows, but um, for a short time there, like I like the sparkly feeling that you get when you're having a good time up there on stage, or the feeling that you get when you're just hanging with your best buds and watching a show, like that was diminished for me in those times. So trying to find that again became even more important, because that was part of my cathartic experience in my recovery. It was rehabilitative for me, to see comedy, to use comedy, to laugh, for goodness sakes. Yeah.
Well, all of us that do improv, we always know that there are other applications for improv. But for
Mhm.
you, after going through that whole experience, was that the moment where improv changed for you? Were you now looking at it at a totally different way?
I always believed it, just like you said. I always believed it. Certainly on the corporate side, for corporate professional development for companies, but it became even more important to focus on it for the psychological and well-being benefits. So, like, my example is the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program, and getting in there to go teach them, my brothers and sisters who wounded, ill, injured, their caregivers, like how can they find some fun and a way to communicate with each other and laugh at each other, while they're going through some really just gnarly things. Um, I always tell the story about, in 2019, we went to Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam in Honolulu. I had been under contract for about a year at this point, and at night I teach optional evening resiliency workshops. So we focus on the resiliency skills that you could pick up by studying and doing some performance in improv. But it's not focused on the funny. It's not focused on trying to do a show or whatever. At first, we focus on some of the theory, applying that to life, doing some skills to kind of focus on listening, problem solving, thinking outside the box, and then ultimately just getting to a place where we can play. And at the end of the week, one of the wives came up to me, and and tears in her eyes, and she's like, "BG, I just want you to know that this is the first time that I saw him laugh since the accident." And like 2 years
Mm.
before, like he had like lost his leg or something in an explosion. And I mean, like I was like a pool of tears on the floor, but it helped me to realize that the work that we do as artists sometimes isn't just up on stage, but it could be in a classroom. It could be in a discussion with someone, and helping them to see the application for this work. So um, I always believed that you can do more with improv than just put butts in seats in a theater and make people laugh. I really believe what it can do, but this helped me to see it as a patient, as someone who was able to touchstone back to the things that we have been teaching in improv classrooms for however long we've been teaching this, and then really believing in it and believing in myself that I could show this and then putting it forward.
BJ, it's possible that there might be some people listening to this episode right now who
Hmm.
are either going through cancer of some type or they have loved ones that are going through cancer of any type.
Yeah.
For those people that may be listening right now, what would you want to say to them at this very moment?
Well, first of all, if you're struggling, like they say, and I guess as a pilot, this is kind of cliche, but put on your mask first before you put on someone else's mask. Um, Take care of yourself so that you can continue to take care of someone else. And this is something that in the Air Force Wounded Warrior program that the caregivers often have trouble with because they're so used to now taking care of their wounded warrior, but they need to take care of themselves. So, you or someone that you know is dealing with cancer or whatever the trauma, whatever the medical issue is, whatever the big adversity is in your life, consider, if you will, for a moment, could I possibly go take an improv class somewhere? Um, Maybe it's not focused on performance. And I say this because there's probably an improv team, there's probably an improv theater, there's probably a troupe or something around there that may have something going on in your area, but they might be focused on the performance side. So look up applied improv. An example, the Applied Improv Network, which focuses on um, the application of improvisation outside of the theater. So education, improv for educators, improv in healthcare, improv in the corporate world, as we were talking about, um, and seeing how it can help people get uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. Know that even just going to watch maybe some shows might make you happy. If maybe that's all you need. Um, Maybe it's writing. And I say that obviously with my background at the Second City, but maybe taking some improv classes so then you could start to work towards writing sketch, or you just take a straight up sketch writing class where you could write your feelings about the things that are happening in terms of society or you yourself with your disease or illness or whatever. Or maybe you take a stand up class where you use the lens of comedy to help you deal with these things, much like myself, and what I have done. Even like I wrote a lot of memes. Like I created memes and like just stupid one liners. I tried to do one a week during my cancer journey, to kind of make fun of what I was dealing with. A lot of self deprecating humor. Um, so if you're struggling, get out there and see what makes you happy. Hopefully, it's an improv class, or a group, or maybe you can look up something online. I get no matter where you're listening to this at, you can get involved in improv because there's tons of shit that's online. You don't have to go to a place that has a theater. Maybe your community college, maybe your university, whatever.